Good morning, good morning, members of council and staff and residents. I'd like to call this council meeting for Wednesday, April 24th, 2024 to order. I'm going to ask that you join me in a moment of personal reflection. Thank you. The region of Durham exists on lands that the Mississauga and Anishinaabeg inhabited for thousands of years prior to European colonization. These lands are the traditional and treaty territories of the nations covered under the Williams Treaties, including the Mississaugas of Scugog Island First Nation, Alderville First Nation, Hiawatha First Nation, Curve Lake First Nation, and the Chippewa Nations of Georgina Island, Beausoleil, and Rama. We honor, recognize, and respect Indigenous peoples as the right holders and stewards of the lands and waters on which we have the privilege to live. In our efforts towards reconciliation, we will continue to build and strengthen relationships with First Nations, as well as the large Métis communities and growing Inuit community here in Durham. We commit to learning from Indigenous values and knowledge, building opportunities for collaboration, and recognizing that we're all connected. Members of Council, just a couple announcements. First, I'd like to take a moment to update Council on two meetings that we had on Monday with Minister Sakaria, Minister of Transportation, as part of the Ontario Good Roads Association Conference. For both meetings, I was joined by Ramesh Jagannathan and Commissioner Works and Alison Burgess, Director of Communications and Engagement. Our first delegation with the Minister was on the topic of the status of the rapid transit projects in Durham Region, including the GO Lakeshore East Extension and a request from Durham Region Council to remove the tolls on the provincially owned portion of the 407. Second meeting was a joint meeting between Mayor Schumer and Councillor Jubb and members of Brock Council to request that the Ministry fund the costs of a temporary and permanent replacement for the Beaver Ridge Bridge in Beaverton. We were also joined by MP Scott at the meeting. They were both positive meetings, and the Minister was responsive to the region's request. He agreed to take back the concerns and opportunities that we raised and consider them further. I also have a great news story that at the OGRA conference, I'm proud to announce that the region and our contractor, Sonkin Construction, were presented the Municipal Concrete Award on Monday as part of the conference. The award is for the Cochrane Street Bridge replacement project that we completed last year in Whitby. The award is given out for conformance to specifications based on testing, aesthetics, workmanship, innovation, and other considerations such as effective traffic management and public engagement. Members of Regional Council in the town of Whitby would recall this was a very complex undertaking that we required careful coordination between the region, the contractor, the town, and the rail authority. Members of Council, we don't normally clap in council chambers, but could we give our works team a round of applause? And one more piece of great news. The Sunderland Ringette Association Under 14A team in Brock Township was successful in winning the gold at this year's Ringette Ontario Provincial A Championships that took place in Kitchener on March 14th to 17th. The team competed and won against 22 other teams from across Ontario and secured top prize. These amazing athletes were focused and dedicated all season and placed second overall in league play. The Sunderland Ringette has been a key member of the Brock community, providing Ringette program to North Durham communities since 1982 and is 100% volunteer run. The Sunderland Ringette Association provides important opportunities for female athletes to excel at a competitive sport in a positive way, providing not only ice skills but focus on enhanced physical health and well-being, higher levels of confidence, and leadership for youth. Congratulations. Mr. Clerk, could you do a roll call, please? Oh, sorry. Mayor Carter.
First of all, good morning, Mr. Chair. Just because of the reason that you brought up in regards to great meetings with elected members and ministers. I'm wondering of your letter September 1st, 2023, if Mr. Trudeau, Mr. Poilievre, or Mr. Singh has responded to your letter in regards to the largest crisis this country has faced.
Mayor Carter, I'm sorry to say that none of our leaders at the federal level have responded. We have had meetings with individual MPs on the topic. There was a conversation parts of that conversation that took place on the floor in Ottawa. I believe that information came from Durham Region, but I cannot substantiate that. But I know that the MPs hear us. I'm not sure if they're listening, but I know they're hearing us.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. I appreciate it and have a good morning.
Oh, thank you. Mr. Clerk, could you do a roll call, please?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Electronic roll call is starting now.
All right, we have quorum. Members of council, declarations of pecuniary interest. Mr. Clerk, if I could have you watch online, please. We have none in the room, none online. Members of council, could we get adoption of the council minute meetings for March 27th and the committee of the whole meetings on April 10th? Moved by Councillor Gerard, seconded by Mayor Watton. On moving both minutes, we'll call the vote. All those in favor? In opposition? Seeing none, that carries. Members of council, I'm going to ask that we alter the agenda to hear delegations from Ms. Wendy Bracken and Ms. Linda Gasser and Ms. Lisa Marie Wilson prior to presentations. Moved by Councillor Anderson, seconded by Councillor Pickles. This will take 2/3. Simple majority. All those in favor? In opposition? Seeing none? Thank you. We don't need a motion. Okay. So we'll start with our first delegation, Ms. Wendy Bracken. Good morning, and when you're ready, your microphone will be lit for you, and you have 5 minutes.
Good morning, Council. My delegation today focuses on Durham's corporate GHG emissions in Cow 12, the climate change report, and the biggest contributor, the incinerator. My points today: incineration is bad for climate change. Durham's data show GHG emissions from the incinerator have been increasing, and Durham's climate report only provides a partial picture as it reports only the non-biogenic fraction. Countries around the world are walking back from incineration due to climate and other adverse impacts. Durham should too. Biogenic emissions are released from burning biomass like food, wood, paper, animal waste. Non-biogenic emissions are released from burning the fossil fuel-based fraction, including plastics, synthetics, and solvents. Here's Durham's data for carbon emissions from the time of the EA in 2009 and 2019 and 2021. Carbon emissions from burning 140,000 tons of garbage each year at the incinerator have increased from the 2009 EA estimate of 139,000 tons to 175,000 tons in 2021. That's about a 26% increase. Massive GHG emissions. Incineration is bad for climate change. These are the actual values Durham reported to Ontario. But the Durham Climate Change Report, Cow 12, doesn't provide those numbers to you or to the Durham public. It gives Durham's total corporate emissions as 178,000 tons and shows the incinerator's the greatest contributor at 36%. Using those figures, these calculations show that the incinerator emissions in Cow 12 are less than half of what Durham reported to Ontario for total carbon emissions. While the report today does not state the assumptions it's working from, based on these figures and what was received from staff, Cow 12 does not report the incinerator's biogenic emissions anywhere. The full picture of climate impact is missing. According to the Energy Justice Network, almost half of municipal solid waste is considered biogenic. And while the EPA and others have assumed carbon dioxide released from burning biogenic should not be counted because it's, quote, carbon neutral, since plants and trees regrow, this assumption is being thoroughly debunked in recent years. According to the US EPA's own Science Advisory Board, who reviewed EPA's accounting for biogenics, carbon neutrality cannot be assumed for all biomass energy. Ideally, both fossil fuels and biogenic feedstocks should be subject to the same emissions accounting. The European Environment Agency Scientific Committee also asserts the assumption that burning biomass doesn't result in carbon accumulation in the atmosphere is mistaken and a serious error. This paper, Correcting a Fundamental Error in Greenhouse Gas Accounting, discusses the scientific background of that European Science Committee opinion and further confirms that considering burning biomass as carbon neutral and not accounting for the carbon dioxide release is not correct. A new Canadian report, The Whole Picture, Climate Impacts from Waste to Energy, also confirms the need for full GHG emissions accounting, inclusion of biogenic carbon dioxide, and consideration of source reduction and diversion when analyzing climate impacts. It concludes, when all GHG emissions are included, it's clear waste to energy is responsible for more emissions than all other forms of waste management, including landfills. We've known since the EA that incineration produces more GHG emissions per kilowatt hour than coal-fired plants. Coal was phased out because of those emissions. Send this report back to staff for complete accounting of GHG emissions from the DYEC. Research what's happening globally. Reject increasing incineration capacity. Stop throwing good money after bad. Say no to district heating project tied to the incinerator. It's becoming increasingly clear around the world, including Europe, that it is time to phase out incineration. Incineration is keeping countries like Denmark from meeting climate objectives. Policies are changing. Here are the EU countries that have implemented incineration taxes. Toxic pollution and lack of progress in reduction and recycling is increasingly recognized.
You must wrap up.
Okay, subsidies are being withdrawn, incinerators are closing, moratoriums are being instituted like in Scotland, Wales, and it's right now on hold in England. Thank you for hearing my delegation this morning.
Thank you. Questions to Ms. Bracken? Mr. Clerk Conlon? No? Seeing none, thank you.
Thank you.
Good morning.
Good morning, Chair Henry, ladies and gentlemen. So I'm here today to speak to you about the same report. This slide appeared in a report about 3 years ago, and it's a slide that you should request in every update report that you get. It gives you a visual, and then below that, it gives you the numbers. I call this the iceberg slide. That big purple blob on the right, that is your incinerator, and that is just with the non-biogenic emissions. So this is how the DYEC emissions are depicted in your staff report. That bottom orange portion of the chart, it makes it look that the emissions are relatively constant. The NPRI data, that's the federal data to which these emissions are reported, shows some fluctuations. The Ontario data set, this is a screenshot. It's a very wide table that I can't condense, but this screenshot shows you where I get the data from on my next table. And to Ontario, Durham reports CO2 from non-biomass, CO2 from biomass, and total. And you can see that even with relatively constant tonnage, which with the exception of 2020, when Durham got a one-time amendment to deal with what they said was excess waste due to COVID, you can see that with relatively stable tonnage, the emissions are increasing. So you should ask, why are the incinerators' GHG emissions increasing? Are there more fossil fuel-based materials being burned, like plastics? Is there more natural gas being used? And if so, why? Or what else could be the reason? Who calculates these GHGs, and from what data sources? And how are the biogenic and non-biogenic fractions determined? And who verifies this? Council must require traceable accounting of all GHG data reported, and Council must know and owes the public complete transparency. COW 12 states that the transportation sector continues to be the largest source of GHG emissions overall in Durham. So that's overall, not just corporate. The biggest bang for your buck would be to improve transit, not just from a climate perspective, but also to increase affordability, address the accessibility crises, and improve our air quality. Successive councils have not taken consistent or meaningful actions to reduce Durham GHGs. And if Durham were serious about addressing its largest source of corporate GHGs, which is the incinerator, Council would withdraw the capacity increase request to 160,000 tons. You don't need to burn another 20,000 tons. Total garbage tonnage could be reduced if Works Committee were committed to supporting efforts to address waste at the front end. Spending time and money on district energy that portrays the DYEC, which is your highest source of corporate GHGs, as a low-carbon heat source is ridiculous and wasteful greenwashing. Climate change is a human rights issue. Citizens are taking their governments to court. And to those of you who may be considering a run for regional chair, your records on the incinerator, on budgets, as well as the climate and transit files will be closely monitored. Please know this, if you're a bystander in this era of climate risk, you're not neutral. You're part of the problem. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you. Questions? Online? Seeing none, thank you for your delegation.
Thank you.
Our next delegation is Lisa Marie Wilson. It's Women of Ontario Say No.
Good morning, Lisa Marie. We see you online. If you could please press the Request to Speak button in the bottom center of your screen.
Okay, can you hear me?
Yes, we can. You have 5 minutes.
Oh, you do have my presentation. Okay, thank you. Okay, yes, good morning, Mayor and Council. My name is Lisa Marie Wilson, and I'm representing the Women of Ontario Say No, and I have my shirt on. Just wanted to point that out. We're a collaborative group of men and women, people and organizations that care deeply about basic human rights in the workplace. In this case, upholding the right not to be harassed by an elected member of council. Many of you know that Bill 5 was voted down on May 31st, 2023 at the Roma Conference in January 2024. The government announced its commitment to introduce its own legislation on this issue. In fact, when we asked about timing of introduction before the legislature breaks in June, Minister of Municipal Affairs and Housing, Paul Calandra, shared in late February that I don't see why not. Given this, we are now calling on municipalities to support government allocation of resources to prioritize this before summer breaks, to ensure that the municipality elected representatives are held to the same standard of how we treat each other as any other working Ontarian. This is a nonpartisan advocacy effort. If Bill 5 has passed, had it passed, it may have affected who was able to run in this most recent election. A change that would have supported candidates that had baseline personal conduct of not perpetrating egregious acts of harassment to municipal staff or fellow colleagues. If you can go to slide 2. There are so many good people that serve the people as elective representatives. However, like every sector, there are people who are guilty of perpetrating harassment in the workplace. One does not have to look far to find examples. I'm a school board trustee in Barrie, Simcoe County, or in Simcoe County and Barrie, and we have had there's examples there in Barrie, Ottawa, Mississauga, Brampton, as to why this legislation is so necessary. In fact, the number of examples is only increasing since this effort formally began a year and a half ago. In every other workplace, in Ontario, employees are held to violence and harassment in the workplace policies. Currently, there is no legislation that provides an appropriate mechanism for accountability for municipally elected representatives when it comes to perpetrating harassment. In any other job, if these such acts of harassment are substantiated, the person is terminated. In the present, not only can an elected representative perpetrate harassment, no matter how egregious, they can retain their position and seek re-election. This isn't acceptable. Additionally, adherence to violence and harassment policies ensures protection as well. It provides a framework to discern legitimate harassment from constructive criticism. For example, the idea that if codes of conduct have 3 measures, harassment can be addressed at the outset and never elevate to the point where removal would have to be pursued. Slide 3, please. So our ask is simple. Let's make things better. Let's support the government in introducing legislation that will ensure that the basic human right to go to work and not be harassed is respected. Let's increase public trust in publicly funded elected positions. And the last recommendation is based on the same consequence applied to candidates who failed to file a financial statement for their election campaign. It's hard to stand here and try to rationalize how a lack of a financial disclosure warrants penalty, while councillors guilty of harassment can pursue re-election carte blanche. Something is wrong with this picture. We need this legislation introduced before summer break, as we want additional time in committee to work out details. Context is critical here. We know government has already completed consultations in 2021. We do not want to squander public resources by re-engaging in consultations that have already occurred with the same bodies. We want legislation introduced that we can take the time to support the government with various details that are fleshed out in a committee after second reading. This isn't a controversial ask. In fact, in theory, if you engage in professional behavior, this legislation should be a non-issue. Slide 4. So today we're here to advocate for your support of your workplace safety. As elected leaders of your community, you are responsible for ensuring basic human rights are respected and protected. Government legislation to address this glaring harmful gap is not only necessary, but the only way forward. We need it to be a priority. You cannot obtain diversity of voice at the decision-making table when at a baseline level, the workplace is unsafe.
You must wrap up.
Okay, thank you. With all the pressing issues of homelessness, okay, I'll just wrap up by saying every voice matters. We look to you, elected leaders of your communities, to do just that, lead. Please join us with all the municipalities in standing up for human rights of every person in this province. Thank you.
Thank you. We do have questions. First is Councillor Shahid.
Thank you so much. Through you, Chair Henry, Lisa Marie, really appreciate your presentation. I've been following you guys for a while. I do agree with, and I'm coming with a question, Chair Henry, that this is a non-political issue. It should be easily taken care of. So I'm guessing that this is in second reading at the province right now, this bill?
Yes, yes, it is. Well, with government affairs to be fleshed out in committee. Yes.
And last Monday, we had Integrity Commissioner bring a report at our Whitby Council, and I spoke to him about this in his, just on the fact that the uptick of complaints have been from the last term to this term, and what he had said that he's experiencing a lot and his office is inundated. Do you have any dialogues from any integrity commissioner of what their viewpoints is, or are you getting some sort of help with getting this bill passed from that part of integrity commissioner or those kind of lawyers as well?
So I would love to give a detailed answer to that, but Emily McIntosh is sort of the founder of this and is really behind the scenes doing a lot of that work. So I don't have all those figures in front of me, all that work. I'm one of many people wanting to get the word out to all the municipalities. I know, I know that, when you talk about numbers, they are increasing, and I did have some, before some, different examples of the different municipalities where this is occurring. But I would really, I would love to get you those answers, and I can get back to you with that specifically. I don't want to speak out of turn, so I would need to speak with Emily and then to get that answer for you.
Thank you so much. Last question through you, Chair Henry. I see the fact that I believe the regional council did endorse this as a motion, if I'm not mistaken, back then. I believe it was brought forward and it was endorsed. I'm just looking at the clerk, but let me come to my question. I support it, but I just was wondering, what is it that you're looking for from us today?
So just once again, just to have that support, there are different municipalities, so we need you to sort of speak up and speak to this when it comes. It initially was turned down, right? And so, although this will be brought again, we just want to show that you're showing your support again, that every municipality is still wanting this to go through and willing to speak to that, to the leaders, to the Prime Minister or Premier.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, sorry. Premier, yes.
That'll be all, Chair Henry. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Kerr.
Thank you, Chair, and through you to Lisa Marie. Just one question of clarification. I wonder if we could go to I think it's the penultimate slide, or if you will, the second last slide, where you had your numbered points. That's the last one?
Oh, yeah.
Go to the one before that, please. There we go. So number 2. It says, create a flexible administrative penalty regime adapted to the local financial circumstances of the municipality. I'm just curious as to why that penalty scheme wouldn't be the same across all municipalities. And could you kindly elaborate or explain as to why there might or ought to be a flexible administrative penalty regime?
From what I understand, it speaks to just, every municipality's financial, budgets, the councillors, their salaries, everything is not each municipality is the same across. So I believe that is why that is there, right? So you want to make sure that it aligns in with that municipality.
Okay, so if some municipalities may have more population and greater salaries, and so it comes down to a percentage of salary, or rather than the same penalty level. So somebody earning this much, it wouldn't be as big a hit, but for somebody earning this much, it would be, if the number was the same, it'd be a bigger hit. That's what we're trying to say here, just to be clear.
Well, I think they wanted to be, from how I interpret that, is that they wanted to be, what's the word I'm looking for? Like equitable across municipalities.
Yeah, I guess that was my question. So why wouldn't it be the same? And you're saying it's because not all councillors earn the same, so the financial number ought not to be the same because it'd be penalize more smaller municipality councillors who earn less. Okay, thanks very
Exactly.
much.
Yes, that's exactly it.
Okay, thank you. Councillor McCaughey.
Thank you. Thank you, Lisa Marie, for your presentation. I am the Durham rep for AMO, and I believe we are supportive of this at AMO. What would you say would be the strongest message that we could be giving to back this when we send our correspondence in? I know the discussion there was largely from especially female representatives that sit at AMO have been expressing the concern over specifically less women running for council in the future, and it's sort of flagged as an issue moving forward. So I'm assuming that would be part of it, but I'm just wondering what your opinion is as far as what the strongest message is that we could provide back.
Well, I mean, thank you for asking. I think it's about being safe, about being able to attend a workplace free of that type of harassment. I know personally, as I said, I'm a school board trustee in Simcoe County, and so although we're talking about harassment, and that could be, like sexual harassment. But I also see this as harassment, when it comes to, issues with discrimination or race. I know, I was subject to something that, shouldn't have come out of somebody's mouth. So, I think that we should all be able to have sort of those basic human rights that are protected, all those grounds that are protected when we enter a workplace. And so this is the start. Right now, we know that the harassment piece is large. There's a lot of examples of from different areas and news stories that I wasn't able to get in, but there's a lot of examples. And so that's really our concern, is that this is increasing and is allowing to continue in a day and age where there should be absolutely zero tolerance.
Thank you. I really do appreciate your presentation today. Thank you.
Thank you.
Councillor Brenner.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. To the delegation, I'm from the city of Pickering, and I say that because we did take an unprecedented approach to ask for an intervention to review exactly what you're talking about with the Ontario Human Rights Commission, who has the statutory authority to seek status in terms of review of draft legislation and policy. What are your thoughts in terms of AMO in particular also reaching out to the Ontario Human Rights Commission, because you have touched on some very valid points in terms of discrimination, which goes far beyond harassment on generic grounds. So I'd be interested in hearing what you think about reaching out as well to the Chief Commissioner of the Ontario Human Rights Commission so that they too can play a role in terms of getting this legislation through once and for all to hold all elected officials accountable.
I say yes. That would be amazing. No, it's this started off with this particular piece, and it took a lot of work to even get the momentum and get this going with the harassment piece. But no, I think it would be of great benefit to do that because it is much larger than that. And, when you think about, when we talk about Ontario workplaces and things like that, there are policies in place as such to protect its employees from all of that. It's harassment, it's discrimination, it's race, like all of it from your sexual orientation, like it's basic human rights. And, as leaders, elected leaders, it's important that they are adhering to the same sort of standards that we put on everybody, in every business and in our elected officials in provincial and federal. So municipally, we need that same type of so that same type of policy guiding, elective officials' behaviors, and there needs to be that accountability, if they're not falling into that. Yeah, I think that's how we ensure that they're representing their constituents fairly, right? I know that if I knew, for instance, somebody was had racist thoughts or had behaved in such a way, I would not vote for that person. If I had that knowledge, that's, and I think that's fair. So I definitely would support that. And I would love to see this expand, definitely to cover all the grounds in our human rights.
If you'd like, if you want to contact me offline through the City of Pickering, I'd be happy to steer you to the Chief Commissioner, Ontario Human Rights Commission. And I know you came to ask for regional support and leadership. I'm asking for your support and the leadership of AMO and other municipalities to enshrine this human rights into code of conduct. Thank you. Thank you, Mr.
Absolutely.
Chairman.
Thank you. Councillor Crawford, you were on my screen and then now you're off my screen. Okay, thank you. That ends the requests for questions. So thank you very much for joining us this morning.
Okay, thank you for having me.
Members of council, we're back on to presentations. Our presentation 5.1 will be Ian McVeigh, Manager of Sustainability, re the December 23rd Ontario Energy Board decision. Good morning. Oh, just give it a second. Okay, go ahead, please.
All right. And Roger, I assume you've got my slides. Perfect, right on cue. All right, good morning, Chair Henry, members of Regional Council. Happy to be here this morning to give you a summary of the report we have on the agenda, 2024-A7, which provides staff analysis of the OEB Enbridge rate basing decision, as well as Bill 165, the Ontario Government Bill 165. The reason for a presentation is, of course, it's a very complex decision, and there have been a lot of misconceptions, I think, within the community, some aspects, some sectors around its implications. So I just wanted to provide a bit of an overview of it to help council in its decision making. If you recall, this matter was referred to staff at the last council meeting following a notice of motion that was moved by Councillor Leahy, following Whitby Council's adoption of a motion in support of the OEB decision earlier in May. Just to note, the comment period for Bill 165 is closed, and so hence the recommendation on the report is for Council to direct staff to participate in a future rate hearing when one is called, which would be the sort of the next step in the process at the provincial level. So just to start with some context, and I know this isn't news to most of you here, but we know that natural gas is a major source of greenhouse gas emissions in Durham, mainly used for home and building heating, space heating, water heating. Durham's low carbon pathway calls for retrofits of existing buildings, existing homes, including fuel switching from natural gas to electricity and other low carbon heating sources, as well as new construction, new development, meeting higher levels of energy performance and low carbon. All of these directions are supported by Regional Council direction, which was further reinforced by Council's decision on the land needs assessment. If you recall, in May 2022, the land needs scenario 2A was endorsed, including settlement area expansions. As part of that motion, the Council's direction was that the new development in these new settlement areas should be served by low carbon heating, whether at the building, home, or at the district scale. So an energy transition is underway, both here as well as around the world. At the international level, of course, we have the Paris Agreement signed by 196 countries. I think the only ones that haven't signed are countries like Yemen, Libya. We are one of those countries, and are together with others have net zero pledges that represent more than 90% of global gross domestic product. At the provincial level, we have a commitment for greenhouse gas emission reductions that you can see there, as well as documented plans, and this is from the current government, for a clean energy future that's characterized by electrification and energy efficiency. I already spoke about policy directions from councils at the regional and local level, so I'll skip over that. So all of that to say, these policy directions do lead to questions about the future of gas in Ontario. And this chart here is we pulled from a report that came out of New York State that asked this similar question. And it does a really good job of illustrating some of the risks that were highlighted within the OEB decision, which I'll get back to. I mean, the basic gist here is that we're seeing growing competition from non-fossil alternatives, heat pumps, district energy, et cetera, which it will be putting downward pressure on fossil methane gas consumption, as well as potentially, and we're seeing this, as well as downward pressure on the number of ratepayers on the gas distribution system. The electric technologies are improving, cold climate heat pumps, et cetera. Consumer preferences are changing, and policy measures are encouraging ratepayers to reduce or eliminate their reliance on the gas system. So if we leave this situation unmanaged, I'm sure, as you can see, the declining gas consumption, declining ratepayer counts will concentrate system costs on a dwindling number of consumers. And as the gas distribution system ages, those costs will increase, costs for replacement, maintenance as well. And again, those with a dwindling ratepayer account, you'll see gas costs and gas rates rising, which will place a particular burden on low-income consumers who are least able to invest in the sorts of technologies that will enable fuel switching. So again, leads to some important questions about new natural gas connections, about expanding the footprint of the gas grid, particularly in new residential subdivisions, which might serve to exacerbate the stranded asset risk. So that's sort of the context for the rate rebasing application that came forward through the OEB in late 2022 and took more than a year of deliberation. It is focused on residential and small commercial new natural gas connections, mainly residential subdivisions. The decision does not impact agricultural or industrial gas connections. So that's a different rate class that is not accounted for here. It also doesn't impact the natural gas expansion program that's funding expansions in places like Uxbridge, Scugog as well. So just important to keep those points in mind. This was the first rate rebasing application in 10 years and the first to be considered by the OEB in the context of this energy transition that I laid out. Enbridge's proposal called for significant and increased capital spending to expand its natural gas infrastructure based on a demand forecast that in the OEB's view showed a small impact from the energy transition. OEB's proposal maintained a 40-year depreciation period for new assets, again, assuming that there is no stranded asset risk looking out 40 years from 2025, which would be when this decision would come into effect. So if approved, this decision this capital expansion would be added to the Enbridge rate base, asset base on which it earns a regulated rate of return through rates paid by all customers, all residential customers within the Enbridge service territory. So the OEB, in reviewing the Enbridge proposal, came to the position that Enbridge's response puts ratepayers at risk over the long term. The proposed increase in investments for fixed cost pipeline infrastructure could create a risk of an overbuilt and underutilized gas system that creates these stranded asset risks. New gas customers face the risk of that underused gas system and associated stranded asset costs, which could again drive up rates and help to drive more consumers away from the gas grid. So in light of that, the OEB decided that the current practice of providing no upfront cost gas connections to, in this case, home builders, shifts that stranded asset risk to the homeowners and to future natural gas consumers. And they, in their view, that was no longer appropriate in terms of the public interest. Existing ratepayers in Durham and Ontario, if this decision was upheld, can be protected from that stranded asset risk by encouraging home builders to consider the cost of those gas connections and maybe make different choices through alternatives like heat pumps or geothermal, district energy systems and the like. So in light of that, the OEB decided that the cost should be paid for upfront rather than over 40 years and amortized on the rate base. They considered key pieces of information that I've laid out here. One, the impact of that on the home builder would result in an average cost increase of $4,400 in the case of a new residential home, which in the case of the home buyer would result in an increased mortgage and increased carrying costs. However, those costs would be offset by lower operating costs for the house because lower rates from the capital not being included. Electrifying home heating through high-efficiency cold climate heat pumps is expected to result in lower energy use and operating costs over the useful life of the equipment. And by requiring these gas connection costs to be paid for upfront, it would reduce Enbridge's capital costs and help to eliminate that stranded asset risk, helping to protect ratepayers into the future. There's a lot of questions about RNG, renewable natural gas, and hydrogen, i.e. can't we just use the gas grid but just put different fuels through it? And certainly gas utilities, including Enbridge, are moving aggressively on alternative fuels, RNG and hydrogen, in partnership with municipalities in many cases, and we're certainly interested in collaborating with them on some of those opportunities. However, the reality is that RNG is quite limited in terms of its availability, even under an aggressive scenario where we're looking at maximizing all agricultural sources, municipal sources. It's south of 20% of current fossil gas consumption at the most, and once you're heading into that, you're getting into potential conflicts with food production as well, which might drive up food prices. We are, as I said, key suppliers for RNG, and I think we'll continue to explore those opportunities there. Hydrogen as well is an opportunity, but it's worth knowing that it can only currently be accommodated at low blend concentrations given the pipeline infrastructure, I think maximum 10%. Both fuels are very valuable, will be very valuable, and particularly in hard to electrify sectors like heavy industry, agriculture, long-haul freight transport. And so it would be worth caution in terms of using it in home heating, for example. So that leads to my final slide, staff analysis, just some key points here. The OEB's decision is consistent with Regional Council direction as reflected in our low carbon pathway, the emergency declaration, and Envision Durham with the land need scenario. It aligns with an affordability agenda, particularly for existing residential gas ratepayers, and incentivizes developers to consider those alternatives that will be more cost effective over time. As I mentioned, I just want to reiterate, this is the key point. The stranded asset risk is significant here, and if unmanaged, will lead to cost escalation for all customers, and in particular, those least able to bear it, least able to invest in the alternatives. There we go. I hope that helps clarify what is definitely a very complex and far-reaching decision.
Thank you. Questions, members of council? Well, excellent presentation.
I
No
guess I did a good
questions.
job of providing
So
clarity. Thank you.
Congratulations and thank you. Members of council, will move on to the next delegation would be Keith Brooks, Program Director for the Environmental Defense Fund.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, we can, Mr. Brooks.
Good morning, Mayor and members of council. Thanks for having me. I'm Keith Brooks. I'm the Programs Director at Environmental Defense. We're a Canadian environmental charity based in Toronto. We've got an office as well in Ottawa. We've been working on energy issues in Ontario for a long time. We're frequent interveners at the Ontario Energy Board, and we were among the interveners in the rebasing hearing that was just discussed by Mr. McVeigh. We're firmly of the opinion that the OEB decision was a good decision and one that should stand, and we're here to voice support I'm not sure exactly what Durham's next move is to be, but I would urge council actually to go forward and pass a motion in support of the OEB, despite the fact that Bill 165 is moving through the provincial legislature. That Bill 165 is very troubling. It undermines it undermines decision-making power of an independent regulator whose mandate is to keep energy costs down, and it politicizes decision-making instead. It's problematic from many elements. It's going to lead to increased costs for all existing gas users. It's going to incentivize builders to continue to install gas furnaces into new homes, which is going to lead to higher costs for new homeowners. And it's, of course, going to increase greenhouse gas emissions in Ontario. This would also be true in the region of Durham. If new homes are connected to gas, that will increase emissions within the region of Durham. The only entity that benefits here is Enbridge. In addition to getting new customers it can sell its gas to, keeping the subsidy would increase Enbridge's capital budget and therefore Enbridge's profit. So the subsidy created what's called a split incentive, wherein the builders would be incentivized to continue building homes with gas because it's basically free for them, whereas the new homeowner would benefit instead from having a heat pump because it's cheaper to operate, and building a home with the right technology from the start avoids costs down the road when that fossil gas furnace needs to be replaced with a low or no carbon option. Getting rid of this subsidy would not saddle home buyers with higher costs because, as the OEB analysts concluded, if there's no subsidy and the rates don't increase, then those lower rates offset any additional costs that could arise from homeowners having to pay for the gas service themselves and then home builders having to pay for the gas services themselves and then passing on those costs to the eventual buyer. But even better yet, as the OEB stated, home builders should just avoid that $4,000 cost of connecting the gas and forgo a gas connection altogether and set people up with a heat pump instead. The decision from the OEB is important from a climate change perspective. You know the province is trying to build a lot of new homes, and I know that Durham region is fast growing and going to be the location of many of those new homes. But if those 1.5 million new homes are all connected with gas, that would result in over 100 megatons of additional carbon pollution over the lifetime of that gas equipment. That's just a massive amount. But I don't want to overstate what this OEB decision does. Rather, it's not a gas ban. Any developer is still free to install a gas hookup and a gas furnace. This will not prompt a wholesale abandonment of gas furnaces and cause a spike in electricity demand. There's been some fear-mongering about the impacts of this bill. It's just changing the incentive for new homes and has nothing to do with all the existing buildings that already use gas. Enbridge is arguing that this is not a subsidy, though it clearly is. The cost to connect new homes are paid upfront by Enbridge, costing the builders nothing. Enbridge raises the money to pay this by raising gas rates, which is what the rebasing hearing was all about. And the new homeowners do not have to pay a premium to cover those costs. They pay the same rates as everyone else. As the members of council are aware, Enbridge emailed all Ontario municipalities asking them to petition the government to overrule the OEB, but instead municipalities like Hamilton, Whitby, Guelph, and among others have passed motions in support of the OEB, and I hope that Durham region joins those other municipalities. The OEB decision was a sound decision arrived at after a year-long hearing. The decision is 147 pages long. It's a thorough hearing of the matters at hand, which led to the realization that an energy transition is afoot, new technologies have emerged, and home builders should consider that when building new homes, because there is a push to decarbonize our economy, which everyone needs to participate in. And in addition to being low carbon, heat pumps are superior technologies that are simply better and less costly to operate. Thank you for the opportunity to speak with you this morning.
Thank you. Members of council, questions? Mr. Clerk, online? Seeing none, thank you for your presentation.
Thank you.
Members of council, item 6.4 has been withdrawn. We'll move down. We have two additional delegations to speak on the OEB report. First is Christine Dremy. Good morning.
Good morning, Chair Henry and regional councilors. I'm Christine Dremy, and I've been a Whitby resident and an Enbridge customer since 1984. Over the years, my household has made successful efforts to reduce our fossil fuel consumption, improving our insulation, purchasing hybrid vehicles and high-efficiency appliances, replacing windows and doors. While working at the region, I often biked to work long before it was trendy. I appreciate the region's commitments on climate change by declaring a climate emergency and creating and implementing mitigation, adaptation, and community energy plans. I am also glad that Whitby has an evolving climate emergency response plan with actions like green development standards. We can be proud of these local efforts to address a global issue. I also want to thank regional staff for Report 2024A7. It is a concise, digestible summary of the very long process, cumulative evidence, and accounting logic that the OEB used to arrive at their decision. Not an easy task, so well done, folks. The Ontario Energy Board is a provincial regulatory body whose primary mandate is consumer protection to ensure a safe, reliable, affordable energy supply in the public interest. The OEB review is a jargon-heavy, hard-nosed financial analysis of the impact on ratepayers and the stability of the energy utility. Environmental costs or benefits are not really discussed, but the broader policy context of reducing fossil fuel is recognized. After considering all the evidence, intervener input, and expert advice, the OEB determined that Enbridge's rate rebasing proposal overestimated the future demand for gas heating. They concluded that amortizing the cost of extending gas infrastructure on user rates for the next 40 years was not rational and would lead to an overbuilt, underutilized gas system in the face of the energy transition, all of which Ian has told you about. The OEB decided instead that growth should pay for growth, upfront, an infrastructure funding approach that is very familiar to you. The current provincial government seems to be opposing this approach at every turn, changing legislation to shift infrastructure costs from developers to the property tax base, or in this case, the user base. In addition, with Bill 185, they are once again undermining independent bodies set up to protect Ontarians, ignoring the advice of their own expert panels at the expense of residents. Next slide, please. The province claims Bill 185 is about affordability, but for whom? Abiding by the OEB decision has the potential to improve affordability for most of us. Those of us who haven't yet been able to convert from gas will save about $600 over the next 5 years. As mentioned by the previous speaker, the developers and builders could simply avoid the $4,400 per unit charge of connecting to the gas by making their new subdivisions all electric. The fully electric households will enjoy long-term lower operating costs. If fewer new gas-fueled homes are built, we will avoid expensive retrofits later, and there will be no future cost to safely disconnect these homes from the gas infrastructure. Next slide, please. So I urge you to support the OEB decision today for sound economic and environmental reasons. The OEB decision aligns with the region's growth pace for growth approach and avoids overbuilding the system. It would level the playing field with the way electrical infrastructure is funded upfront by the developer. It could streamline servicing requirements in new urban areas if no gas pipeline has to be installed, and means we have one less thing to worry about when digging up roads and property. It will prevent higher costs to current gas rate payers, which is especially important for the lower income households who don't have the capacity to switch to heat pumps at this time. Besides the lower operating costs, all electric households will benefit from better health and safety in a home without methane. Many municipalities, and for that matter, the province, are part owners of electrical utilities, and most of them have GHG reduction targets. So why support expansion of gas infrastructure when we have better, cheaper electrical options? Supporting the OEB decision will help the region reduce GHG emissions and achieve our climate goals. Let's build new parts of our community in ways that will help us tackle the climate emergency. Let's not shoot ourselves in the foot by perpetuating our dependence on fossil fuels. This is an urgent action. Supporting the OEB's decision made for purely economic reasons, it will also be a significant step in protecting our planet. It may not be easy being green in Ontario these days, but it is absolutely necessary for our future. Thank you for your attention.
Well done. 3 seconds to spare. Congratulations. Members of council, questions? Seeing none. Mr. Clerk, online? Seeing none. Thank you for your presentation. It's good to see you again. Our next delegation is Alyssa Skanga. Good morning. Oh, sorry, we can't hear you.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning, Chair, members of council. Sorry?
We can hear you. Go ahead, please.
Good morning. Good morning, Chair, members of council. My name is Alyssa Skanga, and I am a youth organizer with Climate Justice Durham. I'm here today asking that council support the decision of the OEB to end the natural gas pipeline subsidy and ask the Ontario government that the original decision be allowed to stand. The OEB decision, made after more than a year of an extensive public hearing process with thousands of pages of evidence from Enbridge and energy sector experts, found that the current practice of rate rebasing all customers for the cost of new natural gas service connections is no longer appropriate. It is not consistent with climate targets and plans, and there is a massive stranded asset risk associated with an overbuilt, underutilized gas system that will saddle homeowners with high costs, disproportionately impacting low-income households. At the March 27th meeting of Regional Council, you referred this motion to staff, who concluded that the decision is in line with Durham Region's direction on climate change and affordability agenda. In September, I will be starting a master's program studying the net zero energy transition in Canada. I'm particularly interested in the role of incumbents and how they attempt to stall and shape the nature of this transition to maximize their own profits. In December, when the provincial government announced they would overrule the OEB decision, the professor who will be supervising my thesis sent me a link to Minister Smith's statement, saying that it would be a good case study. Allowing Enbridge to spread the costs of new natural gas infrastructure over 40 years leaves us paying for new natural gas infrastructure in the 2060s. Far past when we're meant to be net zero. It makes no logical sense. Existing homeowners lose, future homeowners lose, low-income families lose, the environment loses, we all lose, except for Enbridge's profits. Overruling the OEB decision designed to prevent this nightmare scenario was deeply irrational, and supporting it is just common sense. What on earth are we doing? In 2024, the impacts of the climate crisis are already being felt in our community, as is the issue of housing affordability. The thought of 2060 is terrifying, made even more so by actions that sacrifice long-term stability for short-term profit. Fundamentally, this decision is a matter of intergenerational justice. The climate warming experienced by future generations is locked in based on choices we make now. Affordability depends on whether we embrace the energy transition that is coming and set ourselves up for success, or fight it to the bitter end and leave behind a legacy of stranded assets and high energy costs. To me, and hopefully to many of you, the choice seems clear. I'm grateful for the time to speak today as a member of Climate Justice Durham, and I urge each of you to support the decision of the Ontario Energy Board regarding Enbridge and ending the natural gas pipeline subsidy. Thank you.
Thank you. Members of council, questions to Ms. Skanga? Mr. Clerk, seeing none? Thank you very much for your delegation. Members of council, will move on to the next item, which would be in your corporate communications tab, item 7.1, CC10 correspondence from our clerk, Alexander Harris, Director of Legislative Services, on the joint nomination of a candidate to the Source Protection Committee. There is a recommendation. It's a motion to nominate Tavis Nemo, Manager of Wastewater Resource Monitoring and Protection. Can I get a mover? Moved by Councillor Lee, seconded by Councillor Pickles. The item's on the floor. Seeing no hands and nothing in the chat box, so we'll call the vote, Mr. Clerk. All those in favor? In opposition? Seeing none, that carries. Item 7.2, CC 11 memorandum dated April 24th from Nancy Taylor, Commissioner of Finance, updates to the regional surety bond acceptance policy. Could I get a mover on the recommendation to adopt recommendations A and B contained in CC 11? Moved by Councillor Brenner, seconded by Mayor Foster. The item is now on the floor. Mr. Clerk, I see no one online and no hands up here, so in that case, we'll call the vote. All those in favor? In opposition? Seeing none, that also carries. Next, we'll go on to reports related to delegation presentations. Report number 2024-A-7. It was under a separate cover. It's the and the recommendation is there. On the recommendation, could I get a mover, please? Moved by Mayor Foster, seconded by Councillor Wu, that the recommendation be adopted. Questions? Mayor Barton?
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. My concern on this one is that this decision has been made by the province. We're getting into levels of government to issues that have already been dealt with. We have major infrastructure to put in the ground now of our own business. I just think we've already relayed our opinions on this. I think we should have a motion to receive. So I would give you an amendment to do a motion to receive.
The amendment would be in order, but you've already spoken to the issue. That's the challenge.
I'll lend my name to the motion.
Sorry, Mr. I've been corrected. The clerk has said I can accept that as an amendment.
Second.
Seconded by Mayor Ash. So the amendment is on the floor. The amendment is to receive. Mayor Foster, you are next in the chat box.
Well, thank you, Mr. Chair. I wasn't going to speak on the amendment, didn't expect the amendment to come forward, pardon me. But if we look at what we are receiving, the recommendation is that Regional Council direct staff to participate in any generic OEB hearings related to any energy transition. Where we are looking at trying to deal with future decisions, I believe it's incumbent upon ourselves to say, as a region, this is our position. The OEB should be, and I'm saying should be, free to come to their own decisions. That's a different issue. Whether the province should have interfered with what's supposed to be an independent board. But this recommendation in front of us is suggesting that we share our opinion, share our climate change concerns with the OEB, that we are a stakeholder at the table, not just in this. So there are issues, as my good friends from Whitby will know, on how we pay for infrastructure for electrical hookups. I mean, this is broad ranging, and I think we need to be at the table appropriately, trying to change decisions or impact decisions at the OEB. So I cannot support the motion to receive. I think the recommendation here is an excellent recommendation, and I congratulate staff on an excellent report. Mr. Chair, if we could have a recorded vote on the amendment, please.
Recorded vote on the amendment at appropriate time, Mr. Clerk. Councillor Lee?
Thank you, Chair. Just very quickly, I also agree with Mayor Foster in that I think we should be endorsing this position. I understand Mayor Barton's concerns of a provincial decision already being made, but this province has gone back on many a decision the past few years, so I don't think it's out of the order for them to possibly reconsider this. So I think it's imperative that Regional Council put their stamp on this, so to speak, and make our position clear. Thank you, Chair.
Okay, thank you. I see no hands online, Mr. Clerk, so recorded vote on the amendment was called by Mayor Foster. I'll call that vote now.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Recorded vote on the amendment is starting now. Looking for Mayor Collier online. Thank you.
Okay, so the amendment to receive for information loses. We're back to the main motion. Questions? Mayor Foster.
Mr. Chair, so I want to reiterate support for staff's position and expand a bit on where we started to go. So this motion is directing staff to participate in generic OEB hearings. There is a note in this that we are expanding perhaps what we've done in the past, but if we're serious about the future directions of a transition in energy use in Ontario, we should be there at generic hearings. I don't lose the irony. Mayor Barton, I appreciate where you and some of the other colleagues come from, that the province is being criticized for interfering in a decision that the OEB, an independent board, has made. On the other hand, asking us to support maybe at some point in time would put us in the position of doing what the province did. So it's ironic. I support the OEB decision, but do understand that that's a path we don't want to go down. However, appropriately participating in hearings, similar to the public participating in council meetings and decisions we're making, I honestly believe is the right thing to do and is indicative of staff stepping up where they need to step up. Mr. Chair, thank you.
Thank you. Mayor Barton.
Yeah, thank you very much, Mr. Chair. And here's my concern. Listen, I planted thousands of trees in my life. I've solar panels in my house. I drive an electric car. Okay, so I'm fairly green. But when an EF2 tornado hit Uxbridge, I could charge my electric car with my generator because we had natural gas. I believe it is the wrong time, when we know that we have wetter and wilder weather coming, it is the wrong time to not hook up alternative types of energy sources. We know climate change is coming no matter what we do. We can have all the electric, every bus can be electric, every fire truck and snowplow can be electric. But the climate is changing. We need to be ready for it. And one way to be ready for it is to have multiple energy sources to every house. So I completely support putting in electric heat pumps. I support all this. But we need other options to have backups so that when things happen, we're ready. How often does the grid go down in Uxbridge? Every few weeks we have a tree down. Like, it happens all the time. Happens to all of us. We need to have other sources so we're ready for in case of emergency. We've heard that from our climate change folks here. And that's my piece. So I think we need to stay focused, laser focused on our own business, getting our infrastructure on the ground, getting houses built, and making sure that we're doing our part. Thank you.
Thank you. Mayor Carter.
First of all, my apologies for stepping out. There was some pressing business that had to be attended to, and appreciate your leniency. Mr. Chair, just so I'm clear on this, 2024 A7 is on the floor at this particular time?
Yeah,
And the recommendation that is in the report, is that what's on the floor at this particular time? Is there questions allowed in regards to this report to get some clarification in regards to it at this time, Mr. Chair?
Mayor Carter, if you have a question for staff, please ask.
Great, thank you very much. I guess there's a couple things. I just wanted clarification because I just put a heat pump in our home. Cost us about $25,000. But we were also told that it's when it gets to about -10, -12, -15 degrees that the natural gas aspect has to kick in. Is that just what was told to me, or is that a generalization when it comes to heat pumps?
So Mayor Carter, I just put an electric heat pump in, and I was told the same thing, but I'll go
Okay.
to staff.
I just want to make sure I get just in case it was a sale pitch, that's all.
Sure. Through
Oh,
you,
great.
Chair, to Mayor Carter. No, it's there are new models of cold climate heat pumps. I've installed one in my house as well that operate down to -25, -30. And of course, the efficiency does decline as the temperature drops. But we all know that those extreme cold days are becoming less and less frequent in our current and future climate. So there are, just to clarify, cold climate heat pumps do work down to the climates. They're being installed in places like Yellowknife today. And in terms of the upfront capital costs, there is a wide variation. We have a lot of empirical data through our Durham Greener Homes program, where again we are supporting heat pump installations. Costs range from $10,000 up to, as you say, potentially $20,000. But you have to remember, of course, this replaces both your furnace and your air conditioner, right? So in terms of comparing costs, important to keep that in mind.
Okay. So I appreciate the clarification, because it's maybe I've got an older model, which is now 12 months old, so I'll have to upgrade it. So yeah, it's time to upgrade it. So this thing's going to cost me 50 grand after all. I'm just, at our particular house, Mr. Chair, we have a generator to be able to have certain functions of the house operate when the power goes down. We also have interruptions periodically, but in the circumstance, my mother-in-law at one time had Parkinson's, and we needed the stair lift and different things like that. That wouldn't have been available if we didn't have a gas connection. So I just wanted to bring that into the fold of the conversation. I'm just curious. There is a discussion about home builders and residential building that is happening at this time. A question to staff is how many developers did we talk to about heat pumps, and have they already started putting heat pumps into new developments in the region of Durham instead of gas hookups?
Go ahead, Ian, please.
Right, through the chair to you, Mayor Carter, we are engaging, I'd say almost on a monthly basis, with the Durham Region Home Builders Association and their members. In fact, I'll be attending their Awards of Excellence event tomorrow, so looking forward to that.
Get somebody to test the food first, though, just so.
All right.
Sorry, go ahead, I interrupted, my apologies.
And so, yes, so we are working with them to, share latest information about new technologies, including heat pumps. And I can say that a number of the leading builders, I think Mattamy in particular is, moving, like this is their standard build now is going to be either air source heat pump or geothermal. Brookfield, similar, Minto. So this is not, for them, this is not new, strange, different.
Okay.
And particularly when you're looking at like a residential tract scale development, the ability to sort of volume bulk buy and amortize those costs becomes a lot easier.
Okay.
So we've determined through the National Building Code that the incremental costs to achieve higher levels of energy performance through heat pumps and higher insulation could be about $10,000 to $20,000 per unit.
Okay.
Which would more than pay for itself over the life of the house.
Does the Durham Builders Association, do they support this initiative?
Sorry, through the chair to you, which
initiative? That said that they didn't support it.
I'm not sure which initiative.
I think Mayor Carter's referring to, does Durham Home Builders support the installation of heat pumps? Is that what you're asking?
No, I'm wondering, do they support the Durham Builders Association? Do they support the OEB position?
Thank you.
Because I was under the understanding and correspondence that we received, I think they were opposed to it. Mm-hmm. Is that your understanding, Ms.?
Through the chair to you, I'm not entirely sure what their organizational position would be, but I could say it's certainly when you can get it up front at no cost.
Yeah.
It's a pretty good deal.
Okay. I want to go to page 9 of 12 of the report of 5.15. Under the OEB Act, a utility cannot use ratepayer funds to subsidize the cost of building infrastructure unless the infrastructure is expected to generate significant revenue to cover its own cost. So I'm just wondering about that. So the debt servicing charge that we are charged on electricity, I'm going to presume that that would fall under that category. And has the electricity industry been able to justify and show that it has generated enough revenue to cover the debt servicing charges? And if so, why are we paying a debt servicing charge? I'm just wondering.
Mr. McVeigh?
Sure. Through the chair to you, the debt servicing charge really relates to provincial generation assets, think nuclear plants, large-scale assets,
Yep.
not to the electricity distribution system and the infrastructure there, which is,
Right.
again, comparing apples to apples, that's what we're...
But we're talking about natural gas that is available across the country, and we're talking about electricity also. So we are talking about apples and apples, are we not?
Well, but again, just sort of dividing distribution from transmission and generation. The decision here is related to gas distribution infrastructure.
Yeah.
And when we're talking about the debt servicing charge on electricity, that's related to electricity generation, right? So
Okay.
it's
All
just, it's a different level of the energy system.
Yeah.
And just to sort of, in terms of comparing apples to apples, the electricity distributors, when making a rate case, determine whether it's economical over a 20-year time frame, i.e. they need to
Okay.
determine that they're able to recoup their costs over 20 years. Gas, it's currently 40 years. OEB decided for gas it should be 0. They could have decided 10, 20, right? So there was a range of options, and that might be where this ends up,
Okay.
in terms of meeting somewhere in the middle.
Yep.
At the end of the day, that's to be determined through the OEB hearings.
Mr. Chair, I appreciate getting the opportunity to ask those questions. But I'll be honest with you. I like the remarks that Mayor Barton had made, and I agree with him. He is very much committed in regards to the environment, as and I think most members in this community, council chambers in our community are. But there's a couple things that worry me. I am concerned about some of the cost factors. I am always reminded of at one time when radiant heat and electric baseboard heat was the thing. It was the cheapest, it was the best, it was greatest, everything else. And then people were selling their kidneys to be able to pay the bill. So I will not support the recommendation, and I appreciate the opportunity to at least ask those questions, Mr. Chair, and I wish you the best of the day.
Thank you. Mayor Foster, follow-up?
If you have no other speakers, I think as I move that, I get to wrap up.
There are no other speakers on the list, so
Okay,
go ahead.
thank you. So a couple of things. Again, I'm going to bring council's attention to the recommendation. And we're conflating the OEB decision and the challenge with the OEB decision with the recommendation that staff participate, I'm just going to the top here, in generic hearings. So the generic hearings, Mr. McVeigh, if you'll help me out here, this is part of a mandate that the province is telling the OEB that they need to do. These are hearings on future decisions that they are making. So on future decisions, the suggestion is to make sure that Durham region is present at those generic hearings. And the generic hearings are a specific type of hearing, correct?
Mr. McVeigh?
Yes, through the chair to you, Mayor Foster, that is correct. And in particular, in this case, the generic hearing would be focused on evidence to determine the appropriate revenue horizon. 40 years, 0 years, 20 years, somewhere in between.
Well, and more broadly, again, you speak, so this isn't saying don't allow gas hookups. I mean, there is nothing in this, nor anything in the OEB decision, which is being conflated with this, suggesting that gas not be made available to people. Correct? It's
Yes,
just
through the mayor
providing-
to you, Mayor Foster, this is really just trying to shift the economic incentives, particularly for new home development, so that the home builders have an economic incentive to consider alternatives.
But I'm going to roll back to the recommendation that you've put in here. These are generic hearings. We don't know what those hearings may be. So again, I'm going to look at my friends in Whitby, how we are paying for the infrastructure required to connect houses to electricity. Because I can tell you, we haven't dealt with that. No electricity, so I know gas is problematic, and I agree with many of the things that have been said. But if the capital is not available and the appropriate tools aren't in place, which is part of what the OEB does, to connect houses, you're not building houses. So I just worry that, again, we're conflating one decision with what this report is telling us to do, which is saying, staff, please participate in OEB hearings, and please bring forward Durham Region's opinion on these hearings, such that the OEB is at least hearing what Durham Region's policies and stances are. They may agree with them, they may disagree with them, but at least we're having a voice at those hearings. Mr. Chair, thank you.
Okay, Mr. Clerk, that exhausts my list. I didn't see a recorded vote for this. Okay, so now I have a recorded vote for Mayor Ash. Mr. Clerk, I'll call that vote now.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Recorded vote on the main motion starting now.
Okay, so that carries. Okay, members of council, next is committee reports. May I suggest we take a 10-minute recess? Moved by Councillor Lee, seconded by Mayor Carter. I will say 15 minutes, so we'll recess till 11:15. On a recess, all those in favor? In opposition? Seeing none, Mr. Clerk, we're now in recess till 11:15. Members of council and staff, could you take your seats, please? Mr. Clerk, I'm going to ask you to conduct a roll call, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Electronic roll call is starting now.
So, Mr. Clerk, 23 votes cast. We have quorum. Mayor Ash?
Mr. Chairman, I'm going to be moving the Finance and Admin Committee, but I failed to disclose an interest in regards to the confidential report that will be under consideration with the Finance and Admin Committee. And the nature of my conflict is that my son works for the Works Department and is a member of 1785 QP.
Okay, thank you. In that case, should we have somebody else? So, Mayor Ash, normally you would move this, so why don't we just get another member of, and Councillor Leahy, is he online? So Councillor Leahy is the vice chair. I will take you as the mover. Can you acknowledge that, please?
Yes, happy to do so.
Okay, and I'm looking for a seconder from the Finance Committee. Okay. Bruce, Councillor Gerard, you're on Finance, so we'll take you as the seconder. But, okay. That recommendations on items 1 to 6 inclusive report number 3 of the Finance and Administration Committee be adopted. Items to be pulled. 6 for a recorded vote. Okay. All right, on items 1 to 5, all those in favor? In opposition? Seeing none, that carries. I'll call for the recorded vote on item 6. It's on the floor. Is there anyone wishing to go into closed session on this item? Okay. Seeing none, Mr. Clerk, I'll call for the recorded vote to honor Councilor or Mayor Ash's conflict.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Recorded vote is starting now.
Uh,
I don't want to do anything wrong, but my son works for this, for the region. Is that? Okay, I'm good.
Okay, all right. Mr. Clerk, when the vote's ready, could you publish it, please? Okay, so that carries. Members of council, we'll move on to Health and Social Services. Is Mayor Roy on? Mayor Roy is there, so thank you. Moved by Mayor Roy, seconded by Councillor Dye, is that the recommendations in item 1 of report number 3 of the Health and Social Services Committee be adopted. So you're asking to pull that item? No, it's the seconder is Councillor Dyes. Okay, so on this item, in the box, first is Mayor Collier.
Thank you. Sorry, Chair, I don't know which item this is.
Okay,
didn't
Mayor
hear what
Collier,
you-
we're on Health and Social Services, item 1.
Good. Good. I wanted to pull item 1. I was waving, so I didn't know if you'd gotten that.
Okay, then it's pulled. Go ahead.
Thank you. I'm happy to see this coming forward, and this follows up in I think something we started back in June or July of 2022, I believe, with Oshawa and the need for cleanups. And I sent an email to the CAO yesterday and got some of my answers. I just want to be clear because we have been keeping track in Ajax of, I think we probably have the number 2 problem in the region next to our friends in Oshawa. I've supported the funding for cleanup and for security in Oshawa and for 1635 Dundas. What I shared with our CEO is the cleanup is only a small piece of the puzzle. And I am looking for some assurance that and I believe I have it partially in the response, and I think we're going to have a follow-up meeting, but security is the biggest piece. And that is not covered in this new cleanup policy. So I wonder if the CAO chair through you could speak to that, please, in response.
Go ahead, please.
Thank you. Through you, Mr. Chair. Well, we have a clause, as you noted in the agreement, Mayor Collier, that talks to us meeting with individual municipalities as needed should issues arise beyond what's covered in the MOU. So the best way forward would be for us to meet with you to discuss the issues that are specific and unique to Ajax and how we can best address those. Prior to going to paying for security, the team would also like to discuss with you the possibility of maybe some dedicated outreach workers to see if that would address some of the issues. But the purpose of that clause is to sit down and talk about individual community needs without assuming that those needs are blanket across all shelters in the city.
Okay, and that's sort of the reassurance I'm looking for, Ms. Baxter to hear, is just that I will go along with the thought of the outreach workers. However, that has not worked for us. Some of the stats I shared with you was a 700+% increase in the incidents at our library right across the road from the shelter. And I just want to remind everyone that Ajax has 2. And that's problematic, 2 in the same plaza. And the impact, as Oshawa experienced as well, to local businesses was significant. And that is where the security really needs to come in. Just further, we have, as I said, 2 shelters, but there is a limitation in here where drop-in centers are not covered. The region funds both of the facilities in Ajax. Would they both be covered under this cleanup policy? Ms. Baxter?
Could I refer that, Mayor, to the Commissioner of Social Services?
Yes, thank you. Through you, Mr. Chair. Yes, we do cover these costs. Well, we support the the organizations that are providing the warming center or the drop-in through our agreements to cover their current shelter security costs, if they have any, and cleanup, I guess, in the area, Mayor Collier.
Okay, so the 500-meter distance would be covered for both. Even though they are within 500, it would extend actually in a bigger area for Ajax.
Yes,
instance.
it would cover for both, correct.
Okay, and this would cover any new shelters in the region going forward would automatically be captured under this new policy?
That's correct. Any new shelter that we fund and or operate will be covered under this policy.
Okay, I believe the $500,000 sharing with Oshawa was a temporary measure, but the new agreement with 1635 is fairly new. Would that supersede this? And if it does, what is the amount for cleanup for that agreement?
Sorry, for 1635, the maximum, sorry, I think it's 200,000. I'm sorry, I should have that. I'm just turning over to Lisa for a second to see what our numbers are, Lisa.
If I could just jump in, I believe it is consistent. We tried to mirror this with the MOUs that we already had in place. But yes, the MOU for Oshawa would certainly supersede this. The idea of a policy like this is going forward, we would not need additional MOUs when we are opening required shelters.
Okay. And just finally, our costs last year exceeded $500,000. I think I've shared that with this council a couple of times, and each time was assured that this would be rolling out. What about the possibility of retroactive? Since Oshawa has been receiving coverage since 2022, I believe, would be since last year. Is there any opportunity to recoup our costs for the $500,000 that Ajax taxpayers shouldered last year?
At this point, there isn't, Mayor Collier. We cannot do this retroactively. I should point out that the Whitby MOU really began in 2024, and the situation in Oshawa was considered one time, to give us time to get the outreach program up and running. However, we do expect to have a similar discussion with Oshawa that we will be having with Ajax. I know a lot of the costs last year were specifically related to refugees. We did get some money from IRCC, but it did not fully cover our costs, and we were able to compensate Ajax for their eligible costs, which I recognize were nominal, but that is where we stand right now. We continue to be in discussions with IRCC in the hopes that we can have costs covered from January to March of this year, and we haven't had a definitive answer on that yet. And once we get that answer, we can determine what proportion of that would be Ajax-specific costs.
Thank you. I'll save the rest of my questions for when we actually meet in person the next couple of weeks. Thank you. Thank you, Chair.
Okay, thank you. Mayor Schumer?
Thank you, Mr. Chair, through you. And I just was wondering if staff can elaborate. I know it was touched on during the HSS committee meeting, but this only covers shelters. Can you elaborate on the reasoning why this would not cover other regional properties, including supportive housing?
Well, first of all, we try to recognize the responsibilities of local versus regional governments and respect those. In the case of the Beaverton supportive housing, it's subject to an MOU. In addition, supportive housing has the wraparound services that it requires to support that site and the residents. The bottom line is this is above and beyond what is required by our legislation governing social services, and given the limited resources, we thought it best to focus on shelters where there is more volatility and greater rollover of clientele.
Okay, thank you very much.
Councillor Lee.
Thank you, Chair. Through the chair, there's mention of mobile patrol around regionally owned and funded shelters. How many times a day do they do a pass? Is there like a standardized number for that?
I'll have to go to the commissioner. Or
I'm going to pass this over to Director Lisa McIntosh through you, Mr. Chair.
Through the chair, it is a fluctuating schedule, so there isn't a standard number of times they pass. They also call in issues that arise if need to be reported to DRPS, if paramedics are needed, or if it is an email to our outreach team to get somebody to come out and support an individual. And so that is what the shelter, that is what those mobile units are patrolling for, is to keep eyes on the neighborhood.
How wide is the area that they observe?
Currently, they move, during the winter warming, they were moving from Pickering all the way across through Clarington at times. But typically, we are focused on the Ajax, Oshawa, and now Whitby areas.
So hypothetically, if there is a congregation or sheltering nearby on a private area, what action would we take as the region?
So are you talking about encampment action?
Correct.
Okay, encampments, we are working on an encampment strategy for the region at this time. We are working and bringing together lower tier municipality, the local municipal bylaw teams, which we do meet with regularly. We are bringing together members from the local municipal offices, especially those who work with us closely in the homelessness work, as well as DRPS and other first responders. Encampments need to be managed carefully, and so it depends what type of property they're on, and then we work with the local municipality because they are responsible for park cleanup and those pieces. So if it's on public space, we consider action based on case law and other items. If it's away from a playground, if it's not impeding public use. So if it's in the middle of a soccer field during soccer season, then it is cleaned up quickly, and the outreach team and the local municipality will work to get that cleaned up quickly and get people relocated. But if they are in the back end of a park or a space and there is no shelter space to move them to, or shelters are still full even with the additional beds, then we have outreach continue to connect and work with individuals in encampments. If it's on private space and it needs to be cleaned up, then each local municipality, their rules and bylaw and reporting pieces are, we lean into those, and private property owners are notified of the people living on their space, and then those sites are cleaned up appropriately by the property owner.
Okay. My last question is, what does information sharing with other municipalities to the other lower tier municipalities look like? And the reason I bring this up was when Mayor Carter had brought this up a few months ago, he had mentioned that, Oshawa has a really high standard of security that, emphasizes the human aspect as opposed to just the security aspect. And back then, I had mentioned, how can we share that information? How can we share best practices? So from a regional point of view, and we have some experience in this, how are we sharing this information with the lower tiers?
Through the chair. So we are working, I have the managers that I have in the homelessness portfolios, they are meeting regularly with bylaw and other representatives. So there are representatives, whether it's community engagement, sometimes they work within recreation and social services. It depends on the municipality who the contact person is. We're working with those individuals and really talking to them about approach. Security is an interesting conversation to have within the homelessness sector. We are the homelessness team, and our funding and the work we do is there to support and to move along, to move people who are unsheltered, at risk of being unsheltered, to help them move along a continuum into housing. When we start talking about security, that is a very different thing within the sector. Many of the agencies that we are providing security to and the communities, the experts in the area and the research definitely do not align security services with the homeless population. It is really looking at other people living in communities and what they're perceiving as their need to feel safe. And that's where security comes in. That individual in the uniform can make people, just by standing there, feel safe. But we do have a very active engaged outreach team that is out in the community and working with the unsheltered population in encampments and in different locations. And if there is risk of danger to themselves or others, they are working through that with our EMS partners and really supporting individuals to get the help that they need. That is a process and it does take time.
Thank you for that response. That's incredibly detailed. I think I'll just leave with a final comment that I think it's important, especially across Durham region, that we standardize our outreach, whether it's through security or through social services, because, you know, I just want to ensure that we have a cohesive standard and that in our approach to the unsheltered. And I think that just benefits the region as a whole. And I'll leave it at that. Thank you, Chair, for the questions.
Thank you, Councillor Lee. It would be nice if there was a standardization across this country so that we were all playing with the same playbook and that we could work together and take best practices from communities, but somehow we're not being heard. So thank you. Mayor Carter.
Again, good morning, Mr. Chair. I support this recommendation that passed Health and Social Services, and I also want to just say I appreciate not only the detail, but the conversations that have gone on in the communities that have really struggled through this. And the flexibility within this policy really does help this situation that continues to be very fluid. And I think this policy helps us meet the fluidity of the moment. What I can tell you, Mr. Chair, is I was at the Ontario Big City Mayor's Caucus meeting on Thursday and Friday, along with Willie and Kevin. We were there, and the biggest subject matter that was part of that conversation was about our unsheltered population, those that are suffering with mental illness and addiction. And there was some robust conversations and spirited conversations in regards to best practices. But I think that Durham Region, we're learning a great deal, not only the experiences that our city has faced, but I think we're sharing a lot of that information now to help all of us understand the complexities of this issue. But I also think we're going to learn a lot out of 1635. I think 1635 will give us a really kind of a standard as we move forward of new investments or new initiatives that the region decides to undertake. I think it'll give us a really good idea of what works, what didn't work, what did we learn out of it. And the point I bring up about 1635 and this particular issue and why I wanted to speak to it was I'm encouraged by the amount of knowledge and learning that we're obtaining through the process. I think we're learning a lot of things that we may have perceived were one ways, but we're learning tremendously about how this situation is evolving and evolving very rapidly and the complexities of it. And I think that gives us the opportunity to make sure that we're advocating up to make sure that that others understand. I mean, the region of Durham is fully committed in regards to helping those that are the most vulnerable in our community. And we are going to stand firmly to be able to meet their requirements. And we will reach no boundaries in regards to it. We'll go as far as it takes to be able to help those individuals. What I want to make sure that the province and the federal government understands is the region's not sitting still, and therefore the province and the federal government don't have the opportunity to stand still. And we're going to continue to push them. And I think out of our learnings and out of initiatives like this, we show that the voice that we have collectively as the region of Durham can play a significant role in regards to challenging other levels of government that they have to be a participant. I purposely asked you about that letter again today because of the reason that I believe that the seriousness of the matter is not about meeting MPs. It's about meeting the leaders that are making decisions and making budget decisions that impact not only regions but local municipalities. So I'm fully supportive of this. I want to take the opportunity to thank staff for the opportunity to be able to kind of find the fluidity in this policy, but I also want to take the opportunity to say our outreach teams are doing an amazing job. They're working well with the security and bylaw officers throughout the 8 municipalities. And if I can have one piece of advice for other municipalities, your security officers and your bylaw officers can be utilized not in just in enforcement, but in navigation and in connecting them with outreach. And they play an important role of building that relationship. So I leave that on the floor, and I just wanted to take the opportunity to say thank you for this policy.
Thank you. Councillor Crawford.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, Mayor Carter, for that. I just do have a question around the plans for the shelter in Ajax behind the hub. And is there going to be any physical improvements to the rear of that shelter? I do want to also say the winter has been an amazing winter as far as Ajax goes, and that is largely due to the outreach groups that are on the street all the time. So I do want to thank you for that. It has made a difference, but I also know with the warmer weather that it will become more visible again. So I'm just curious about that.
Go ahead.
Yes, through you, Mr. Chair. We're working closely with that particular shelter provider about that location at this time, Councillor, and we're looking at some options.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Councillor Yamada? Councillor Yamada? Mr. Clerk?
Councillor Yamada, we're unable to hear you right now. We can see you on camera. You may wish to try removing your headphones.
We still cannot hear you, Councillor Yamada. Councillor Yamada? Still cannot hear you. Okay, Mr. Clerk, one more time and then we'll move on.
Councillor Yamada, you may need to change in your settings the microphone input device.
Councillor Yamada? Okay, Mr. Clerk, I'm moving on. Councillor Wu?
Yeah, thank you, Chair Henry, and maybe this will give a little bit of space and time for Councillor Yamada to get on, be able to speak. No, and just to follow up to you and to Mayor Carter, and when we were at the Ontario Big City Mayors, the Mayor of Kingston, Mayor Patterson, brought up the point two. What they're trying to do is deal with this homelessness issue, and what they have also done is purchased I'll name the extended care, long-term care facility, and to repurpose the space into a supportive housing hub and for the city's vulnerable population. And again, I don't know if it's something that you had spoken about. It's just not a Durham problem. It's a Canada-wide problem, and how we can share. And again, we are in the infancy, but helping them, lessons learned, best practices, what we've learned from other, let's say, municipalities, regions, and be able to work together. Like I say, between, and it was quite a discussion. If you look at London, the big cities, Kingston, certainly here in Durham region. So is there conversations going on? Do we reach out or do they reach out to us? How does that work?
I'll have our CAO respond.
We are in regular contact with other municipalities, but there's also an association, the Ontario Municipal Social Services Association, also called OMSA, and we're fortunate enough to have our commissioners sit on the executive, and we are very engaged with that organization. Much of what they do focus on is the critical issues and social services of the day, and today that is clearly housing and homelessness.
Okay, thank you for that. Thank you.
Okay. Councillor Yamada, we'll try one more time.
Can you hear me, Mr. Chair?
We can hear you now, yes.
Thank you. So it's hard for me to support the 50-50 cost sharing because We don't know what additional costs are going to be down the road. We don't know where the region's going to want to shove the next homeless shelter. And I can tell from my experience with 1635, there wasn't really much we could do from a municipal standpoint or from a local standpoint. So to say that we're going to get $100,000, that we're going to have 50-50 cost sharing, I think the region should be picking up the full bill. And I think the region should be paying 100% of the costs. I think that's only fair. I would move an amendment to that effect if someone wanted to second that 100% of the costs be borne by the region upwards to a cap of, let's say, $400,000.
Were you able to capture that? Okay. Councillor Nicholson? Councillor Nicholson, are you seconding that motion? Okay, well, then we'll take that as a second, so the amendment is on the floor. Councillor Yamada?
I'd like a recorded vote.
The clerk is capturing it. They're working on it right now. Thank you. Councillor Yamada, you need to submit it in writing. Please send it to the clerk. Okay. Councillor Yamada, I'll need you to confirm the wording on the item that's on your screen.
I'm having difficulty reading or seeing that. Can the clerk just read it out to me, please?
Mr. Clerk?
Certainly, through you, Mr. Chair. The amendment currently reads that 100% of the costs be borne by the region of Durham with a cap of up to $400,000.
Yes, and I'd like a recorded vote on that.
On the amendment, thank you. Councillor Nicholson, you're dropped from my screen. Could you push your request to speak button again? Councillor Nicholson?
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
I have no comment. Just watch a vote.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Mulcahy?
Thank you. Just a question with regards to this. As we have an agreement between the region and the municipality of Whitby, how does this impact that agreement if we were to pass this?
It would not impact that agreement. This is specific to the policy that is before us today.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, so that exhausts the speaker list. There was a recorded vote called by Mayor Roy. Sorry, you just popped up on my screen. Thank you. Mayor Roy?
No, I just, I want to further the question from Councillor Mulcahy then. So the 400,000 just strictly is for anything moving forward in terms of any conversations that are had or updates with each one of our municipalities, correct? Who do not have an agreement, I should clarify that too.
Yeah, the question would be to the mover. Councillor Yamada?
I would say that if, again, I don't know where the next homeless shelter is going to be. I don't know if the region finds another piece of land in Whitby or Pickering or wherever else that they want to put a homeless shelter. I think going forward, after going through the 1635 process that if the region is going to decide where the next homeless shelter is going to be, the region should be paying for 100% of the costs.
Mayor Roy, could you push your button again, please? You're good? Okay. Thank you. Councillor Pickles?
Thank you, Chair. And I hope I didn't miss this point already, but could I direct this back to staff to hear what the budget implications would be, where this money would be found from? Would it take away from other programs? Could I have the response?
It is not a budgeted item, so it would have to come from someplace. I'll go to the Commissioner.
Yes, through you, Mr. Chair. It is not a budgeted item, so we don't have to either come from our program dollars that we currently use to support our homelessness system or anywhere else that Regional Council is looking for us to cut.
I appreciate that. Just through you, Mr. Chair, back to the Commissioner. When you say it would come from existing programming dollars, could you elaborate what we would be reducing then, more specifically, perhaps?
You know, I think it's too early to say that. You'd have to give staff time to go through and see if they could find it. If they're not able to find it within their own budgets, then it would have to be found through somewhere in the organization. I'll go to our treasurer.
So if I may, through the chair, there would be two outcomes. The first would be, as the Commissioner noted, we'd have to take it out of other homelessness programs that we receive funding for, or it would essentially be pre-budget approval for next year, because we've already established our budgets for this year. And as the Committee for Finance is clear, we really struggled that. So that's the dilemma before you.
Well, thank you. And then I think it is a dilemma as to how you find it in year. And I'm not really sure we should be looking at pre-approval for next year. I certainly think this is something that ought to be looked at for next year, but I'm not sure we should be taking a position on it today. So thank you, Mr. Chair.
Well, thank you. And just before I go to Mayor Carter, this is like saying that 100% of all homeless costs should be covered by the other levels of government because it's not within a municipality's mandate. This isn't what property taxes are collected for, and it should be fully recoverable, and it's not. And with no clear rules related to homelessness, mental health, and addictions in this country, it is a challenge. So I think everyone knows where I stand on that issue, but I'll go to Mayor Carter.
Mr. Chair, just to make sure it's clear, I will not support this. The dollars that are necessary in regards to the front end of this issue, the impact dollars, are absolutely vital, absolutely vital. So again, as there's been a willingness in regards to the region, in regards to us working together as municipalities and the region and our staff, the dollars that are necessary in this circumstance, and I mean, you could look at it, there's 8 municipalities, if you do 8 fours or 32, could be $3.2 million, and that's talking about one. The reality being is, yeah, I agree, it's unfair. We shouldn't be burning it, but the reality being is where we are. We have a working agreement with the region. I'm pleased about the working relationship that we have, and I am not going to support $400,000 being taken out of frontline services that can actually make a significant impact on somebody's life today. So that's where I stand.
Okay, thank you. So that exhausts the speakers list. I believe Councillor Yamada called for a recorded vote on the amendment, only the amendment. So I'll call that vote now.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Recorded vote on the amendment is starting now.
So the amendment loses. Back to the main motion. On the main motion, Councillor Yamada.
Yes, Mr. Chair, just a recorded vote on the main motion. Thank you.
Thank you. any other members of council wishing to speak to this item? Mr. Clerk, I see none. I'm going to call for the recorded vote on the item.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Recorded vote on the main motion starting now.
Okay, that carries. Just give me 1 second, members of council. Okay, we'll move on to planning. Just give me 1 second. In the planning report, item number 2 in section 5.1, the report notes that Mr. Van Hoff's term goes to October 31st, 2026, but it actually expires October 17th, 2026. We'll correct that administratively. So moved by Councillor Chapman, seconded by Councillor Pickles, that recommendations contained in items 1 to 4, inclusive of report number 4 of the Planning and Economic Development Committee be adopted. Polls. Mr. Clerk, I see none. You see none. We'll call the vote. All those in favor? Opposed? That carries. We'll move on to works. Mr. Clerk, is Councillor Mayor Pietri online? Okay, then we'll need, moved by Mayor Barton, seconded by, we'll need somebody from works. Councillor Mulcahy. That recommendations contained in items 1 to 6, inclusive of report number 4 of the Works Committee be adopted. Polls. Okay, Mr. Clerk, I see none. We'll call the vote. All those in favor? In opposition? Seeing none, that carries. Okay, we'll go to Committee of the Whole. I'll need a mover and a seconder, please. Moved by Councillor Shahid. Pardon? And Councillor Garrett, sorry. That recommendations contained in items 1 to 5, inclusive of report number 3 of the Committee of the Whole, be adopted. Polls. Mayor Schumer?
Number 1, please.
Number 1. Okay, are there any other polls? Seeing none on the remainder, we'll call the vote. All those in favor? In opposition? Seeing none, that carries. So, Mayor Schumer, on item number 1, the annual climate change progress report.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. Just through you to staff, I guess. I'm just wondering if we could get any comments. There were a couple of delegations today that did speak to some concerns on measurements and you know, obviously some reputable sources on how things should be counted or are counted elsewhere. Can staff just comment? Do we have an issue here? Is something that should go back?
Okay, question goes to the Commissioner of Works. Sorry. Sorry. Well, I think, Mayor Schumer, are you referring to the comments made from our delegations related to the energy from waste facility?
Yes, the deputations that came in today raised concerns about measurements, and I'm just wondering if staff wanted to comment on that, or if there is possibly an issue here, because they did bring up some reputable sources. I haven't had a chance to do any kind of due diligence to verify that, but I'm just wondering, do we have an accounting issue here on the measurements?
Okay, so we'll go to the Commissioner of Works, Mr. Jagannath.
Yeah, thank you through the chair to the Councillor Schumer, Mayor Schumer. No, I can assure you, like all our reporting are compliant with the provincial reporting requirements, whether it's biogenic mass, like non-biogenic mass. We've gone through the slides and we are fully compliant. Not only are we fully compliant with what the province expects, it's consistent with all the other sources and emitters, whether it's in Durham region or across Ontario, we are consistent and compliant.
Mr. Schumer, or Council, or Mayor Schumer, sorry.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Yeah, I understand that. I'm just wondering if there is there a possible issue with how the province either, has this information submitted, and maybe we're complying with the province, of course, but I'm just wondering, have staff had an opportunity to investigate if there is an issue here? I mean, like I said, there were a number of sources quoted in the delegations with respect to comments by international agencies, and I'm just wondering, could there be a potential issue here with how we're complying with the province? We might be complying with the province, but is there an issue there?
Commissioner?
Yeah, through the chair. I think there were a few statements, comments made during the presentation. One of them was about how we report on non-biogenic mass, but not on biogenic masses. But again, we report it separately. But the chart that was shown there did not account for it. But they are reported separately to the province in a different form that's available online as well.
Okay, thank you very much.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Kerr.
Thank you, Chair. Just had a question. During the presentations at the Committee of the Whole meeting, the statement was made about our emissions targets. Excuse me. And rather than being down 9% since the effort started, we're actually up 9%. And I was confused by that, and I'm wondering, I asked a question, they said it was because of dirty energy production, in other words, natural gas plants. To my understanding, we don't have any natural gas plants in Durham. We're one of the cleanest regions in the whole country with our nuclear. So I just wanted to get clarification. Where did that, it's actually an 18% difference. We thought we'd be here and we're here. What's the major reason for that? And why do we seem to be accountable for natural gas electrical production in other parts of the province? So these are numbers or not? And I'm wondering what's the reason for the 9% increase supposedly in our emissions?
So I'll go to Mr. McVeigh.
Thank you for the question, and through you, Chair, to Mayor, Councillor Kerr.
We got a promotion.
The main reason for that increase is, of course, the rebound from the pandemic, and so increasing transportation emissions between 2021, 2022. So that's why we're seeing that spike up on the overall emissions numbers. To your question about electricity-related emissions, what we are seeing on the provincial grid is an increase in natural gas generation, natural gas power generation, partly to account for rising demand, but also looking at planned retirements and refurbishments that are coming forward as well. So those emissions, the emissions factor that we use for electricity is from the provincial grid, not necessarily the power that's generated within Durham. If that helps, there's a province-wide emissions factor. The generation is at the provincial scale.
So my understanding was in 2019 there wasn't a pandemic, and therefore I'm just curious as to why we thought from the beginning when we started this in 2018 or so, is that when we started our emissions thrust, trying to improve our emissions? When did we actually start that?
Well, I guess it would go back to 2012 with the original Durham local action plan, right? So this has been an effort over at least a decade to try to bend that curve. And we can see the significant challenges with doing that across all sectors, particularly transportation and buildings.
It just seems to be a bit of a disconnect here for me, and maybe I'm not quite totally understanding this, but if we're supposed to have been down 9%, we're up 9%. Can't all be because of the pandemic where people are driving more, because we should have been down beforehand, but now we're way up. Is part of that number of houses being built that are heated by natural gas. Is that part of it? I'm
Yeah.
just trying to get, like, it seems to me like we're spitting in the wind here. We're supposed to be making progress. It's a case of one step forward and 4 steps back. So I'm just trying to get a handle on why it is we're not taking a bite out of this and we're actually increasing our appetite for emissions. So I don't know whether you can give me that answer today or we can go offline and have a chat, but that's where I'd like some clarification.
Yeah, maybe I could try just briefly. I mean, it is, the key things are the increasing transportation between 2021, 2022. So when we say the emissions are up, that is year over year between, say, 2021, 2022. So we are starting to see that rebound, right? Less people working from home, more people on the highways. So that's one big piece. And then, yes, to your point, it is increasing population, more housing, increasing natural gas use within the building sector as well. Those would be the two main explanations for that increase. We are working to get heat pumps in existing homes and in new development, and working on district energy, geothermal, other sources. But it's an uphill battle, to say the least.
Yes, it is. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Did you want to respond? Yeah, our CAO would like to comment.
I think it's also important to note through you, Mr. Chair, that within the region, it really is a balancing act, especially on our capital program, with respect to achieving major capital requirements and ensuring that we are addressing our climate change priorities. And to be quite frank, we're not always able to do that within the budget target. So we continue to work towards, a key example is electrification of the fleet. It slowed down a little bit in the 2024 budget. We'll hope to make that progress up in later years, but there is definitely an increased capital costs up front while there is decreased operating costs going forward, and we're not always able to accommodate that within the budget target.
Okay. Councillor Wu.
Yeah, thank you, Chair Henry. Just following up on the first speaker, Mayor Schumer, and making reference to the delegations, and I hope you don't mind, trying to explain biogenic emissions. I guess that's on slide 3, and then on slide 7, stating half of municipal solid waste is considered to be biogenic, and meaning plants such as food, scraps, paper, wood, and didn't we try, and then you go to, I'm trying to lead here, considerations of source reduction and diversion management options. Did we not recognize, when I say we, when we were looking at the anaerobic digestion, recognizing that within the source material that there were maybe kitchen scraps and stuff like that, and trying to divert it out of the waste stream. Am I not correct in saying that?
You're correct.
Thank you. And now going back to, here we are, sorry, because I'm looking at what they're talking about. And we are trying to reduce greenhouse gas emissions. And again, with E. McVeigh's presentation, and I think we as a region have stepped forward with the Durham Green Building. And we had that launch in January. And trying to look at, and I'll speak for Clarington, the Clarington Transit Orient the Curtis Talk, and trying to utilize that district energy. So I would say that we are trying to do our best. I think with the anaerobic digestion, I think there was, when we're talking about diversion, was there, if I could call it, a secondary sort as part of that program?
I'll have our CEO respond.
There was a pre-sort, which was critical to separating the food waste and other aspects of the waste stream. Unfortunately, we got caught in the cost escalation that was part of the pandemic and had to defer that project. So we do hope that it will come back in a number of years. It just was not financially viable at the time.
Right. So I would say some of the issues that were recognized or brought out today in the slides, we're aware and we're trying to deal with it. Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you. Mr. McVeigh, I've said this before, but it's never been captured in any report. Durham is the clean energy capital of Canada. And when Councillor Kerr mentioned the plus and minus of 9%, nowhere is it ever stated in any document that this willing host community and the work that Mayor Foster, Mayor Ash, and former Mayor Ryan has done related to nuclear, we don't get credit for being a willing host community. Yet every other community in Ontario that gets energy from Durham Region is using that energy to get their credits. Seems ironic. It also, I've mentioned that, you know, the best stewards of our land are our farmers, and the wetlands and woodlots don't get credit. And we don't get credit for, in Oshawa, it would be, I can name one in every municipality, but in Oshawa, Frenchman's Bay or the Second Marsh. Uxbridge would be the Durham Forest. Be Frenchman's Bay and Pickering. 80% of our region is greenbelt, yet nobody talks about the carbon that's captured within our areas. And often we get beaten up and accused of not being caring, but all of that takes maintenance or support. I know you, if you want to comment, but it really is a political question, but feel free if you'd like to.
I think I will step away from the political question if you don't mind.
Okay. But it does make a difference when Durham is a leader in the province and we're allowing other communities to use what is done here during a time when nuclear wasn't popular. And once Mayor Foster and his team get the first of the 4 small modular nuclear reactors running in Clarington, Durham will be the energy capital of the world. And that is a great story, and Durham should get credit for that. And Mayor Foster and Mayor Ash, thank you for your continued work on the nuclear program. That's my rant, so Mayor Barton.
Hey, thank you very much, Mr. Chair. I just have a question to staff, and that is on our EFW. Is it good for climate change? Is it better than landfill? I think I know the answer, but I want to hear it from you.
Well, just so in one part, Durham Region has a bylaw that they can have no more landfill. So I'll go to Mr. McVeigh to answer the question. Or Mr. Jaganathan.
Yeah, through the chair, well, next to zero waste, I think it's a good one. And given that landfills is not an alternative, I'm not sure what's the alternative.
Go ahead.
Yeah, just to follow up, if you don't mind. From, we know the issues with methane coming from landfill. When you compare methane at 10x multiples versus EFW, from a net climate change perspective, is that positive or negative?
Yeah, landfills, I think it's 28x.
Okay.
If I'm not mistaken, Andrew. Yeah. So, and it's forever, right? Landfills, they emit forever. In spite of all the efforts such as biofuel cover and so on, but, it's a long-term perpetual problem as opposed to how we deal with at the DYEC.
So again, I'm looking for a really clear answer, just because we heard for 10 minutes today how bad the EFW is from a climate change perspective. Love to hear just straight up, the EFW, it has a net positive impact on climate change compared to any other options.
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Mayor Foster.
So thank you, Mr. Chair and Mayor Barton. Some of us have been around the block way more times than this, but we've been around the block on this so very many times. 2 things, Mr. Chair, you make note of these small modular reactors, and I can tell you that I've told the province I will meet their small modular reactors and I will raise them a Darlington B. But we have every right to be proud. And to Councillor Kerr's question, it's an uphill battle. No ifs, ands, or buts, and I'm not sure it's a battle that we're winning, but it's a battle that we're fighting. I will take a look at what's going on in Pickering, Clarington, in that little corner where we've got the EFW. We've got a compost facility right there. There was a suggestion for the AD, and as much as we heard concerns about the nature of waste, some of you will recall that, not everyone. There were delegations here talking about how awful the AD and the pre-sort was going to be. So I think we need to balance that out. I look at my little neck of the woods, literally in my backyard, the carbon reduction that is going on and the attempts to further reduce carbon. And it's something to be proud of, not something to be ashamed of, not something to take shots at. So, look at what we're doing, look at what we're trying to do. And we're fighting a good fight, and I'm really hopeful that we win the fight, because if we don't, the consequences are going to be dire, to say the least. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Okay. Members of council, that exhausts the speakers list, so I will call the vote for the item 1. All those in favor? In opposition? Seeing none, that carries. Members of council, we'll move on okay, so Mr. Clerk, we're on departmental reports and other resolutions. Members of council, 10.1 is a call for nominations to the Federation of Canadian Municipalities 2024 Board of Directors. So I will go to the floor now looking for a nomination. Mayor Roy?
I'm going to nominate Councillor Malia Shahid, please.
Looking for a seconder. Lots of hands. Seconded by Councillor Crawford. Okay, thank you. Mayor Collier?
Actually, I was going to move Councillor Shahid, so I'm done.
Are there any other nominations? Councillor Shahid, you'll stand? Okay. Can I get a motion to close nominations, please? Moved by Councillor Chapman, seconded by Councillor Lee. Nominations are closed. Call the vote. All those in favor? Now a vote on Councillor Shahid being our nomination for the Federation of Canadian Municipalities. We'll call that vote now. All those in favor? In opposition? Seeing none, congratulations, Councillor Shahid. We'll move on to item 10.2, confidential report of the Commissioner's Work and Finance, General Manager of Transit, pending an acquisition or disposition of land for regional corporation purposes. Is there a need to go into closed session on this item? Seeing none, okay, we'll need a mover and a seconder. Moved by Councillor Anderson, seconded by Mayor Foster. The item is now on the floor. There's no one wants to go into closed session, so we'll call the vote on 10.2. All those in favor? In opposition? Seeing none, that carries. There's an additional correspondence from the Canadian National Exhibition Association to appoint a representative. Councillor Shahid is the current representative, but are you? Okay, so she's happy to continue. So members of council, we're going to need a motion to nominate somebody. So Councillor Chapman, okay, and then we'll go, Mayor Roy, you're seconding that?
Yes, I'll second.
Okay. Are there any further nominations? Councillor Shahid has already said that she is going to stand. So in that case, I'll call for someone to move that nominations be closed. Councillor Lee, Councillor Wu. All those in favor of closing nominations? In opposition? Seeing none. On the appointment, we'll call the vote. All those in favor? In opposition? Seeing none. Again, congratulations, Councillor Shahid. There are no notices of motion. There is no unfinished business. Announcements. Mayor Foster.
Mr. Chair, thank you. I would like to note that today, the 24th of April, is Professional Administrators Day. And to recognize, while we make decisions and we speak to each other back and forth and agree and sometimes disagree, all of the work happens by staff. And a lot of that is organized and captured and reported by the administrators. So I I want to thank each and every one of them for doing what they do, because without their efforts, absolutely nothing would get done.
Well spoken. Councillor Lee.
Thank you, Chair. May is actually Asian Heritage Month in Canada, and I think we celebrate this in Durham as well. I just want to point out that this country has always had a very complicated relationship with Asian Canadians, from the internment camps with the Japanese and the Chinese head tax, and the legislated Chinese Exclusion Act, which actually prohibited people from China immigrating for about 24 years. We've obviously made great leaps and bounds. I'm very proud to serve on regional council. I just want to actually take this moment to also call out Regional Councillor William Hamilton Wu for blazing a trail, realistically, at Durham Region. I think you were the first Asian Regional Council of Asian descent to ever get office, and you really set a high bar for the rest of us. So just wanted to call you out. Thank you. Thank you, Chair.
Here, here. Mayor Barton.
Hey, thank you very much, Mr. Chair. Just letting everyone know that May the 4th is curbside giveaway in Durham Region. I think all Durham municipalities are participating this year. So if you have items that you don't want to go to landfill and you think someone else may want to use them, put them at the curb, put a little free sign up, and I encourage you to do this. This was a huge success last fall, and I look forward to it again. And then in addition to that, there's a canoeathon that goes from Durham Region into York, starts on the Zephyr Road between the 5th and 6th concession. That is also on May 4th. So a great little trip down the Pefferlaw Creek. If anyone wants to join me, you could take a paddleboard or kayak or canoe. Is it free? And it is not free. It is a fundraiser for the Eudora Leakstown Lions Club. Sorry.
Thank you. Councillor Anderson.
Thank you. And May 4th. May 4th is Maple Fest. So all road leads to downtown Bowmanville. It's free. And there'll be rides for kids, and there'll be something for everyone. So remember, and it's from 9 to 5 on May 4th in beautiful, historic downtown Bowmanville. Come on down and enjoy Maple Fest. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Wu.
Thank you, Chair Henry. And seeing that it was mentioned earlier, I just wanted to make this announcement that I will not be running for regional chair. But to bring up, this is also an announcement too. I thought I should make that one very clear. This Saturday, the Bowmanville Butter Tart and More Market will be held at the Garnet B. Rickard Recreation Complex. And that will be from 10 a.m. to 4 p.m. And free admission, but if you can, the Clarendon East food bag would be very appreciative if you brought a non-perishable food item. And also, I should have mentioned this Monday at our Clarendon Council meeting with the owner of the Clarendon Eagles junior hockey team there, but they just won their third straight provincial junior hockey final, and they're in the Schmaltz Cup semifinals. And we wish them a lot of good luck, and they get into the finals, and hopefully they bring the Schmaltz Cup back to Clarendon and to Durham Region. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Shahid.
Thank you. Through you, Chair Henry. April's been a beautiful month where many Durham Region's residents were able to celebrate Passover, Eid, and some of our residents were celebrating Sikh Heritage Month. I was able to attend a Vaisakhi event for Durham Region, and it was a beautiful event where a lot of people congregated to celebrate our diversity. So it was a pleasure to attend all of them, and I wish all the Durham Region residents, whoever were celebrating all of these, best of luck, and we keep on celebrating our diversity. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Chapman.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'm sure everybody knows that this year, 2024, is the 80th anniversary of D-Day, which was one of the most important battles in World War II. But leading up to that, the Canadian Army had to evolve into many different things, such as our local regiment evolved into a tank regiment. So our first Tank Saturday at the Ontario Regiment Museum at the north end of Stevenson Road, south end of our airport, is on May the 11th for the first one. Come on out, and there's tank rides and a big demonstration, and it'll be on the evolution of how Canada got into the armored war business and how we went through up into including the tanks that we used in Afghanistan. Thank you.
Thank you. Mayor Carter.
Just because Willie brought it up about hockey, we have to say that the great Oshawa Generals are on quite a roll. And of course, the next round of the playoffs start this Friday against the Battalion. And the Oshawa Generals look to take that 4 games to none.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Clerk, there is no unfinished business. We've covered announcements. The last part of the meeting is bylaws, so we'll go to Mayor Ash.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. It's moved by myself, second by Mayor Barton, that bylaw numbers 2024-018 to 2024-025 inclusive be passed.
Okay, on the bylaws, all those in favor? In opposition? That carries.
Confirming bylaw.
Oh, wait 1 second. Mr. Clerk, the creation of the new reserve fund bylaws? It's all included? Good. Okay, Mayor Ash, if you would do.
Thank you. Mr. Chair, it's moved by myself, second by Councillor Barton. Mayor Barton, that the bylaw 2024-026 being a bylaw to confirm the proceedings of the Council of the Regional Municipality of Durham at their meeting held on 24th day of April 2024 be passed.
Okay. Members of council will call the vote. All those in favor? Opposed? That carries. Mayor Watton, motion to adjourn. Thank you. Councillor McCaughey, thank you. On adjournment, all those in favor? In opposition? Seeing none, that carries. Have a great day, members of council, and thank you to staff for the great work that you do. And lunch is in the back.